Welcome to the Curious Concierge. I'm Justin Sun, and this is a podcast about the dreamers, shapers, and innovators redefining hospitality across Asia. Each episode goes behind the scenes of the hotels and villas to restaurants and cultural spaces, where we explore the places where we stay, gather, and experience, and the people who bring them to life. These are the stories behind the stays. Let's get curious. Today's episode brings us to Phuket, a destination that's become so much more than a beach paradise. It's now a thriving ecosystem of entrepreneurs, families, and creatives redefining hospitality. And one person who's been at the center of that transformation is Bruno Barone. Bruno has worn many hats, from events and marketing in Europe to villa operation and property management here in Phuket, to storytelling and creative production with Closer Asia and his latest venture, Closer Law. What ties it all together is his ability to see hospitality not just as a business, but as emotion, community, and rhythm. Bruno, welcome to the Curious Concierge. I'm so glad we're doing this. We've spoken before, and I've always admired how you connect such different worlds, maintenance, storytelling, creativity, all anchored in Phuket. So let's start there. Where does this story begin for you?
We have to go back in 2011. I was living in Spain at that time, in the Canary Islands. But I had already at that time a VIP client management, and we were basically helping guests to find the right villa in the Canary Islands with the right service. My business partner traveled to Phuket and he saw a huge growth of the villa and real estate and short-term rentals marketing. We kind of always wanted to try something out of Europe, but never knew where and when. In 2011, when he came back, he said, you know what, we should travel there, explore the island, and see if we could fit. So that's what we did. And we liked it very much after those 2 weeks of inspecting and traveling. And then we start to study law of setting up a company and possible partnership with existing real estate. And it went very, very quick. We were back after 2 weeks. And since then, we started off the company in 2011, December. And by, I would say, a year later, we already set up a short-term rentals agency with guest services and have around 20 to 30 properties to manage. From 2013, that's when we start to think about having our own services, such as cleaning, housekeeping, airport transfer. Then we start to grow vertically and horizontally. We were fairly new in Asia and in Thailand and adapt from European logic to the Asian culture and the Asian way of life, which is very different. We grew rapidly from 30 to 50, 60 in 2016, 17, 18, over 150 properties. Wow. With taxi departments and refurb renovation departments. And in 2019, we even had our own pool company because we have so many villas that we said, well, we should do it ourselves. So we can guarantee the result, because holiday makers arrive in a villa. What they want is a clear, crystal clear pool. It was hard work simply because we didn't have time to adapt. What's logic for you is not logic for someone from another country, because education is not being the same and values are not the same. So we needed a lot of time. But after 14 years, 100% adapted to here, to Thailand, and I would say Southeast Asia. Then COVID hit early 2020. My ex-business partner retired at the same time. So I found myself with several companies to manage with no clients. So it's been a very interesting 2.5 years of reshaping, adapting, rethinking, and huge money loss. It was a matter of holding on and waiting for the storm to pass. From October 2022, things went completely back to normal. And we had huge success in Phuket due to the high level of Russian guests that came to the island. And then since then, it's been, again, a great ride after after the threshold at October 2022. But I can tell you that I've learned a lot since then. Since then, we've set up Close Asia, which was marketing, communication, events, supported by filming as well. I tried to build activities that were complementary
Hmm.
or could help the other activities. So to find synergy in between all of them. So that's always what I wanted to do, plus starting a charity organization since early 2020 to help families in needs in Phuket.
Amazing.
And in a way, it's a little selfish to do this because there's no better feeling of helping someone that is in need. And the more I was helping people, the happier I was.
Beautiful thing that you're doing. And it's also a moment in time where you're like, oh, wow, I am actually part of this community. I'm integrated in this community and I actually can give back. You spent 14 years there. And, it's interesting that it only took 2 weeks to make that decision. So going back in those short 2 weeks, what was that little draw or that thing that gave you the confidence to just say, hey, let's just do it and come in here?
Very good question. When you land, you get that feeling of, did I land in paradise? You see the beaches, the restaurant, the amability of the citizen and expats that we were meeting, telling us, I moved 5 years ago, I moved 2 years ago, and I don't regret it. Everyone was positive on saying, well, this is a complete change of life. We did a maximum of meeting of different people, like real estate, scuba diving school, suppliers, a cleaning service company, law firm, and also all this leisure, this high quality leisure of being able to go back on the beach at 4, 5
Mhm.
p.m., do a beach volleyball competition with a lot of different kind of people and mixing with locals and being on one of the most beautiful beach in the world, just having that opportunity that people would pay a lot of money to be able to permanently living here. So that's one of the reasons, I think more than the economic reason. So money has never been the main factor. The main factor, I think, is two things. One is quality of life, and the other one is inner happiness.
Mm.
So inner happiness is finding what you need instead of finding what you want. Phuket, we felt like tick a lot of boxes. It took us a good year to just adapt to the place. But after that, there was no way back. We shift step by step everything we had in Europe and settle properly here because we saw that here we could get what we need. In Europe, people are focused on what they want because of how marketing is done. You need that bag, you need that phone, you need car, dress, you need makeup, PS5. Here you don't need any of that. You need experience, sensation, feelings. Being on the beach when the sun goes down. That's an amazing feeling.
Removing all the distractions and you're going back to the basics of life, enjoying this concept that is so desired today, which is work-life balance. It's actually really great to hear that you found that joy and instant connection in those 2 weeks, in addition to being confident enough to move across continent. And it's incredible since you've built this multi-layered hospitality ecosystem. We have Property Management Phuket, True Asia, we have Asia Green Tech, Phuket for Events,
Correct.
Closure Asia, and
Correct.
Closer Law. But it's like you've built every layer of what keeps this island running. And before we get into these companies, I'd love to talk about the landscape because Phuket has changed dramatically. I'm sure it's been 14 years, as you mentioned, on the island, and on Instagram, Phuket looks like this perfect island of infinity pools and luxury villas. But behind the scenes, it's a full scale machine, right? Electricity, water, gardens, staff, maintenance, guest coordination. And you've built businesses that literally keep that ecosystem alive. Let's start with Property Management Phuket. What made you decide to build this company and what kind of gap were you trying to fill at that time?
When we arrived, we were having chat with many real estate agents were saying to us, we like to sell properties, but we don't like to manage them. The question is for the buyer is always, but now what? So we were facing always that same speech of saying, hey guys, if you come here and set up a company of management and rentals, we were happy to give you all those contacts of all those owners, and they would be happy to work with you for sure. We could get so many properties so quickly because of the need of the market. We arrive at the right moment. Now you see the growth because it went from a need of the market to a saturation. Land start to be sold only for the purpose of building more villa. Then it's been a snowball effect. The more we were renting out those villas, the more we had developers wanted to build more of those villas. Since early 2010, 11, 12, until right now, still growing, that snowball effect has not stopped. It stopped during COVID, but it's been a recess. We just want more of those companies instead of being one of the top companies on the island. Now, obviously, downsize around 550 to 60 properties in management instead of 150 or 200. But some of the competitors have 300, 400 villas. And then all those small one-man show or two-person show company that manage 4, 5, or 6 villas. Then you have tons of them. You had that in the past didn't exist. So or you had a proper company that were managing 20, 30 plus, or you had the owner who was managing himself, which is still the case for some cases here. But now you have all the layers.
Right.
So that's how the evolution went, simply because of the success of Phuket. Why? So we can talk about why is Phuket so successful. First off, communication. It has a brilliant airport. Fairly communicate with all the major airports in Southeast Asia, plus the Middle East, and a lot of direct flights with Europe as well. So that makes a perfect communicated island in one stop. You can pretty much go wherever you go. It's reachable and fairly affordable. It goes up and down depending on the season, but it's very reachable. So that's the first thing. Second, safety. Phuket, Thailand in general is very, very safe. So you could leave your scooter with the key on it in front of your villa. The following morning, the scooter will still be there with the key on it. There's not many countries in the world that can say the same. That makes a huge difference when people travel. Then diversity. Phuket has a lot of areas we can suit to a lot of different kind of tourists. If you want to party, then you book a hotel in Patong, and I can tell you, you're going to party every day. If you want to come with your family, then you go to Bang Tao, Kamala, Kata, Karon, or Rawai, and then you will find exactly what you want. More than you want some more of an adventure, you want to rent a typical house, then you go to the East Coast and you see those Phuket Town, Shalong, all those other areas, Cape Anwat, the East Coast, and there you would find the more Thai, not so more touristic feeling, but the Thai feeling, the authentic. So this within a very small island. You have choice. And if you want to travel to one or the other, it's half an hour, very reachable. And you've got the freedom to move. We've got a very good level hospitals here in Phuket. The level of private schools here is becoming really, really high. So the directions that Phuket is going, the new kind of tourists, which we can call the wellness tourists, you've got all those wellness centers that provides you, the type of energy, cleaning,
The cleansing,
centers, healing. Exactly.
Yes.
And that's becoming really famous. Plus, the trend within the next 5 years would be then the medical tourism. High-level hospitals are setting up in Phuket. You will be able to travel, get treated, top worldwide doctors. And so that's also something very appealing. And each corner of Phuket will have its purpose. And on the top of it, very high level of local culture makes Phuket a very complete and attractive destination. Because of all those factors, and also in the near future, we are working on it because I'm helping to develop that. For example, high-level sports facilities. We're talking to really big football club at the moment to set up some training academy, which will give a very good name of Phuket into the high-level sports scene.
That's fascinating.
A few places in the world where teams go to train off season and they are sure that they're going to find the perfect spot, and Phuket can be the perfect spot. And then you will have another market in the future will be the MICE market. MICE is meeting incentive conference events and exhibition. So this is a market that I used to know well because it used to be my market back in the days when I was in Spain. I used to work in corporate events, and Phuket is not far to become a very key destination in Southeast Asia. We just need a little bit more infrastructure, meeting infrastructure, and then we can really go full on.
That's actually beautiful to hear, especially since Phuket, it's really becoming a long-term or even a permanent place for many of these folks. I think a lot of people listening are interested in your story from the property management side, where you started building these systems. There wasn't a lot of competitors and villa rentals at that time. This cyclical growth of supply and demand became an industry. It was probably a lot of owners back then trying to do it themselves. In a way, you professionalized what used to be word of mouth business. Hey, do you need a landscaper? Do you need a pool maintenance person, etc.? Could you maybe tell us more about how you connect something as technical as pool chemistry or energy systems with, a hospitality philosophy? Because that's how you keep the business and the momentum going.
Yes, I think it all came from demands because when we saw a constant growth of villa complexes purchased by foreigners looking to make some rental incomes out of it, they were contacting us and arriving with a full catalog of services, totally a la carte service, built out of demands, out of what owners said, but could you pay my bills? Because I'm not here, I'm in Australia. So we created a bill payment department. After 20 owners asking the same thing, we're creating an admin department that would taking care of owners' floating account and during electricity space, etc., etc. We just followed what owners were asking. For example, the pool, we start to investigate and we start to take water chemistry course and say, what do we need, etc. And we start to build up the department and take care of one team, 25 pools, two teams, 50 pools. It be the link between what the owner wants with the local contractor. We always learn through owners' demands and the need of the market. We only did simple things well. And that's already an achievement here. And at the end, we start to list all what a property would need to function. And we start to create every single activity and every single department according to it. And it worked. We even had our own taxis. We had 4 vehicles with 4 licenses and drivers. And we were coordinating exclusively our own guests with the OTAs. Airbnb was starting. HomeAway wanted to specialize themselves in short-term rentals. Booking.com wanted to specialize themselves in short-term rentals too. A Trip, the Chinese, was called Sea Trip at first place. Started with us in Phuket. It was an exchange, great communication between us and OTAs, which I think it's important to improve the market.
Definitely. It's interesting how the distribution, it's come so far. We're now competing to gain back that share, to get the direct booking, to become the master of your own records, right? I think it speaks to how you've seen the industry grow, especially with the growth with Airbnb, and how people are now so comfortable living in someone else's home. You've talked a lot about systems and doing simple things right. Let's talk about people. I know you're deeply involved with training and empowering local staff, which often gets overlooked. What role does, the staff development play in your industry? Like, how do you maintain that high service level when you're dealing with so many independent villas and not these hotel chains?
Well, hotel have their own staff training system. Even though there's no hotel school in Phuket, big hotel chain actively have the staff training program, which is needed. It's a constant duty because you always have turnover. Here, I've got a really solid base of existing staff that later become managers and later train their own staff. It give a lot of freedom to this level of staff, but with still the high level of supervision when I am somewhere with a team reviewing. Here it's more a question of how are you going to get on with their way of seeing things, their way of seeing the job. Because my way of seeing the job is not their way of seeing the job. As an entrepreneur, you always want the maximum of hey, once you understand the culture, then you have to find a way to incite them to then themselves say, oh, I should do this better. When it comes from them, that's when you're doing well. So I'm not going to impose, I'm not going to dictate, I'm going to show, and then I'm going to let them find their way and try to reach the same result. Make no mistake, there are mistakes made daily, but the way we solve, sometimes if it's way more beneficial that not having made that mistake, because then they realize and correct. And so for me, after all those years, I could find a certain way of behaving, and you get what you need to through durable result, because it's not having 110% for 1 month or 2 months. It's having 85% for 12 months. I wish I could get 110% for 12 months, but never ever happened. It's really about balance, and then self-control, patience, and someone can have a bad day, be sick, they can have personal problems that no one knows. Because the job and the results depend on the staff so much, the first thing I have to take care of is the staff. The private life here has an impact. We're getting into the culture, we education, religion. We're getting into um, the way they see things. Is not my way of seeing things, and it will never be.
Really good point. And not only the way you treat them, but guests remember that experience, not just for the property, but for the people they interact with every day. It's hard for service level jobs to expect someone to put in 100% every single day. There's ups and downs. There's personal stuff that happens behind the scenes that impacts them. It's great to hear that you're creating a system and a community with that level of respect with your staff and bring standardization, let's say 85% throughout the whole year, which I think is a really good point to make. I think a lot of people are churning staff quickly because they're expecting too much. You don't really have this balance, and it's hard to find what that equilibrium is when it comes to handling your staff. Phuket's evolving, and we're not just talking about short vacations anymore. We're seeing digital nomads, long stay travelers, families relocating here full time. So how's that shift from tourism to semi-permanent or permanent living, changing the island's hospitality and rental market?
Well, it makes it more diverse. Now, when we talk about short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, long-term rentals, and now you've got a lot of digital nomads, people who work from anywhere with a computer and a phone, just sitting at their home or in a club, etc. They are client of STR, MTR, and LTR. Didn't change the market, complete the market. We have a layer of clients that will stay from 6 months. They are not tourists, but behave more like a resident. So price wise, it's still short-term rentals or mid-term rentals, but we have to adjust the price because they try to get the best opportunity, because it's not a holiday expense. It became a cost of living. I would say it went from 3% back in days. Now we are over 20% of the same as the relocation. So it goes from STR to LTR to become a permanent resident. They are leaving their country for X reason. They not feel comfortable living in the country they're living, and they just want to move. So this is absolutely around the globe. We've got people from the US relocating, Australia, China, Europe, Middle East. They're still using STR when they arrive, but then they switch to LTR fairly quickly and might be purchased afterwards, and then they will live in permanently. That's why developers are focusing on building villas fit for relocation, because it's two different products. You need more storage, you need more land. If you come here for 2 weeks, you don't need big parking. You just come with the luggage. You don't need a lot of land. You just need a pool. So it's a different product, and developers now tend to adapt their development. One day, this villa could be sold to a family that's moving here.
Right. It's interesting to see this, the blurring of lines, between short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and a permanent home. It's maturing into something very holistic. Tourism, community, creativity, and lifestyle all intersecting. And I think that's actually a great segue into your creative work. You're not just managing villas, you're also telling stories too. You've co-founded Closer Asia,
Mhm.
producing cinematic video content for hotels and much more. That's, quite a pivot from management and operations to storytelling. What inspired you to start Closer Asia? Did Phuket's villa market needed a better visual language?
At the beginning, I wanted to get back to events because I was an international ambassador. It was the Expat Association. It's a worldwide organization. And I was doing events every month. I always been very interested in the expat community because I'm one of them. And the knowledge that you get over 10 years can help other expats. And so those are Asia. It was not really to serve the rental business or the property management business, but it was more to be at service of the expat community because we saw that it was growing very fast, and sooner or later we would need that kind of of platform. And because of the skills that I get from the past and the know-how, I could set that up fairly quickly. When you live in a place like Phuket, you definitely want to connect with the expat community.
And you're working with owners all day long, whether they're local or international folks who have second homes in Phuket. So it's
Mhm.
great to hear another way for you to give back to community and really integrate yourself into the expat side of it all. You've also expanded even further with closer law. What is closer law and why is legal and compliance support becoming so important now for folks trying to come into Phuket?
So closer law came because we had a partner that was still a lawyer, and we were always receiving inquiries when, hey, do you know if I could do this? Do you know a good lawyer that could help company? We thought a couple of months of it. Said, yeah, that's not a bad idea. We could create a structure within Closer that would have a couple of lawyers guiding expats. But then by the end of 2024, we have a recommendation from the embassy. From one embassy, we jump to another embassy, to another embassy. So now
Amazing.
we are recommended, trusted by three embassies. So, and embassies can go to a certain point in what they can do or what they are allowed to do. And then it has to be taken over by a law firm. So far, so good. Helping a lot of residents or tourists.
Similar stories around the world, right? Regulation tightening, for example, the golden visa that Portugal was offering or different parts of
Hmm.
Europe. Since we were talking about folks moving to Phuket and becoming residences, it's interesting to see the legal landscape from technical to the creative to the legal side. You've covered it all. Community plays a big part in your philosophy through things like Phuket for events and Be Kind Jobs. What stands out about your story is how community driven your approach is. And you're not just building businesses, right? You're building networks that connects locals, expats, and
Correct.
visionaries and visitors together. And you've got Phuket for events and Be Kind Jobs. So tell me a little bit more about that. What does this sense of community responsibility come from?
I saw when I arrived. Um, all the time it took me to reflect and adapt. And I would say sometimes you face something in a country and you said, it's just the way I see things, but it's not the way it really is. The way it really is the way they see things. I should help the community to understand and to develop and grow. That's why Be Kind was created during COVID. I have to work hand in hand with the local municipality. It came from my youth, in experience you had when you're younger. I remember when I was working with Amway, we did an event in Mauritius Island, and Amway, they do charity actions and they're very good. At that time, I was coordinating that charity action in an orphanage. When I organized that event, it moved me. That was in 2010, I think, 1 year before I came to Thailand. And I felt so good be able to provide at least temporary relief. We give food to the family, a check to the organization to buy new materials, etc. And that made me feel so useful that I said, wow, I feel so good doing this. Then one day I will have my own organization. We arrived in this very poor village. There was a kid sleeping in the stairs of a supermarket, 5 years old, 6 years old kid. that moved me a lot. And that's how I decided to create Be Kind. Because I said, well, if no one is doing anything, then nothing is done. I'm glad I did. That's how I kind of collaborate with the community and a lot of other associations like SCAL, UFA. They gather once a month. I'm part of all that because I think it's important to help. A lot of people
Yeah.
contact me and saying, I have a new business. I'm selling wine. Where can I go? And I always try to help any entrepreneur who's starting on the island. I always try to give some advice.
Definitely. In a market like Phuket where tourism, is seasonal and livelihoods could be unpredictable despite its growth, you're giving people stability in an industry that, doesn't always guarantee it. For you, hospitality goes beyond villas. It's about building systems where people and places can thrive together. Let's talk about Phuket's role in this regional story of short-term rentals and growth. Across Asia, these markets are booming. Bali, Da Nang, Siargao, Lombok, even southern India now. But Phuket feels different. It's a little bit more mature, more regulated, maybe more sustainable. How do you see Phuket's short-term rental market differing from other destinations like Bali or Koh Samui?
My problem is that I have not traveled to those places. What I did, if I could compare, obviously, I went within Thailand, I went to Koh Samui by reputation and by reference. Places like Bali and Phuket, which share the top of the, let's say, the top of the range, the top of the ranking. The difference that I know many people move from Phuket to Bali and they are planning to move back. For example, the amount of traffic in Bali
Mm.
and the waste of time they spend in scooter. They said we cannot stand that anymore and we are planning to move back. But others love Bali and said to me that Bali is way better than Phuket. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance though. I've been invited many times. I cannot really talk about it. What I do know is that Bali's villa market is a little higher in terms of services than Phuket villa market because it's an older market. It's still a lot of things to finish in Phuket. And then I think it would be a very powerful destination once all those infrastructures will be done, like new hospitals, new wellness center, new training facilities, etc., etc. We are still in the growth curve. We haven't reached saturation yet. But to me, Bali is an older destination. Back in the days, was already a destination of villa, and Phuket was not at all. So regarding other destination, Da Nang, the emerging, Vietnam is right here. True that many property managers went there, including my manager, and she came back and she said to me, cheaper, true, beautiful, true, but level of services not like here. And Philippines, wow, Philippines could really be the best, but it's still a long road.
Mm.
They need people with experience, investors, to go there and set up the same way that a lot of people did with Phuket or with Koh Samui or with other regions. But Philippines, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely stunning, and people as well. But it's still not the level of what we have in Phuket or Bali.
I mean, that's such a valuable point. I think everyone wants growth, and not everyone's ready for that responsibility that comes with it. And I
Hmm.
think these emerging destinations have a lot to learn from, let's say, Phuket's stability and structure and this charm that Bali has, despite the traffic and kind of the chaoticness that I think, all recognize it has today. And of course, with growth also comes the risk of over tourism, something both Bali and maybe
Hmm.
Phuket less have faced. But how has that shaped the way you think about development and sustainability on the island in Phuket?
Well, I think local governments are fully aware of what's going on here and they're working on it accordingly. So the goal is quality tourism in 3 to 4 different fields. One field is, as I mentioned before, medical. That kind of quality tourists that they want to have and they're starting to have. Bear in mind that a few years ago, International Airport opens a private jet terminal, which is fully functioning. 5-star resort. It's just a matter of completing the inventory. In the next 3 years, until 2028, 27 new resorts will open in Phuket. Half of them are high level brand. We're talking about Ritz-Carlton, Hyatt, Chatrium. Those hotel chains do not open if they have not done a very high level marketing study. Now we see other European hotel chains like Radio Hotels opening also within 3 years here. We start to get hotel chain here that would never have thought about opening before. So that's also a sign of evolution.
It's exciting to hear all these new developments. What do you think about the sustainability behind those developments on the island? Do you think there's a lack of consciousness in a rush to open and to get that market share? Having that experience, from your companies, how do you feel that Phuket is today when it comes to sustainability?
When every single hotel chain is fully aware and working on it, and they also share that sustainability knowledge to the local government, who step by step is getting there. The growth is very quick, and they will need a time to adapt infrastructure again and systems to put in place. We're talking about energy, water, waste, which are the three main. As most of the market are through hotels, villas, and condominiums, well, each villa management, juristic office management receives guidance from the government, pushing as much as they can and implementing systems to, fulfill sustainability level that again is falling under the Southeast Asia sustainability that's had to be followed very much by each government. Where you have a high density of population, waste, garbage recycling plants, water treatment, etc. If they want to keep Phuket at the top, it will have to be in a sustainable way, because nowadays one doesn't go without the other. I don't have access to it, of the sustainability plan of the Phuket government, but the development that has been made by very professional companies, we're talking about Ritz-Carlton or Marriott, they obviously have their sustainability program. But it's a challenge, because there's a lot of people in the short surface like Phuket. Those
Right.
are questions that are raised between central government to local government. And I know it's on the table. We are with a new government of Phuket, and when I will have the chance and to meet him, I will, of course, raise a question.
That's fantastic. And now let's switch gears with something lighter, our rapid fire round. Here we go. Favorite villa in Phuket?
The favorite villa in Phuket, I think, is the Ring Thai Villa.
A design or service detail that you wish more villas would care about?
Yes, a covered wide deck, because people who come to Phuket, they like to stay and live outside. And not every developer thinks about this. They love to have a deck with a fan by the pool, and they can have their breakfast there, they can work there the whole day long. So they have to pay attention to this detail. Very important detail.
To top that off, I would add maybe adding some mist that comes out of it. The small little details on a hot day, very much needed.
That would be perfection.
Yeah. What is the most underrated area in Phuket right now?
That's an easy one. The area is called Cape Panwa. It's a little peninsula on the east coast of Phuket, right under Phuket town, and this way underrated.
Okay, have to check it out. What's the best advice you've ever received from a guest or client?
Maybe on a sensitive point, to find a good way to against mosquitoes, because a lot of guests are mosquitoes freak, and they often give us remedies or just ways to get all the mosquitoes out. But Thailand is a tropical island, and you will never avoid insects or bugs. It's impossible. But now we have a mist, a product that is really good. It's not fogging, it's misting, and it's since then so far so good.
Final question, the curious question. If you could build your dream villa from scratch, unlimited budget, no constraints, what story would it tell about Phuket and its people?
First of all, I'll make sure I would be on a cliff to have the view, because one of the top Phuket attraction are the views. I would have that huge deck with infinity pool, having that kind of view on an all side of the island, and would tell a little bit the story of Phuket, that Phuket, wherever you go, east side, west side, south, you have those scenery that people do not forget. They stay stuck in their brain, and if I build a villa, it will be completely with that huge deck that people can just sit there and contemplate.
Well, that's such a beautiful note to end on. Bruno, this has been such a fascinating conversation, not just about villas or rentals, but about community, creativity, and the bigger picture of what hospitality can be. You've shown us that Phuket isn't just an island, it's a living ecosystem powered by collaboration, design, and care. And before we close, what's next for you?
It will be to help new upcoming developers to integrate with potential buyers and local community. That's one side. And the other side, we're going to push the law firm to be more proactive in solving expats questions, always to try to make the link between what's the local community / local law to new person that would come here as a tourist or as a potential expat. So those are the two roads, I would say.
Well, I can't wait to see how that evolves. I'll
Me
link
too.
everything in the show notes below. Your website, social links, Closer Asia's portfolio. But before we go, would you like to let our listeners know where they can find you if they have any questions or want to stay connected or learn more?
The best way would be an email.
Fantastic. I'll add that to the show notes. Well, Bruno, thank you again for joining me on The Curious Concierge. Your story really captures what the series is about, how hospitality is built, not just with data and design, but with heart and human connection. And so thanks again for your time and sharing your perspective on how Phuket continues to evolve as one of Asia's most fascinating destinations.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. Thanks, Bruno. This episode is part of a special 6-part series created in collaboration with Short-Term Rental Asia, a regional organization supporting the growth and professionalization of the short-term rental and villa industry across Asia. Together, we're exploring how hospitality in Asia is evolving from design and regulation to technology, sustainability, and the human stories behind the stays. Thanks so much for listening. If this episode sparked something for you, follow the show and share it with someone who loves hospitality. A rating or review helps more listeners discover these stories, and it truly means a lot. Know a founder, operator, designer, or innovator who should be on the podcast? Send me a DM or email. All links are in the show notes. And until next time, stay curious.